This is something that applies to other software emulators as well. Sticking with ZSNES or a Raspberry Pi just isn't going to cut it if you value absolute accuracy. And this accuracy is a key ingredient to the Super NT, a major selling point. But really, it's the overall user experience that elevates this system to the top. The controller-driven interface, ability to use your cards and original controllers, and a lack of additional latency make for an excellent way to play Super NES games. While I'm a CRT purist at heart, I firmly believe that the Super NT is the single best way to play Super NES cards on a flat panel TV. It's also loaded with options. When you first fire up the Super NT, you'll be presented with a nice randomized boot-up sequence, followed by a menu. Jumping into the options, the number of available adjustments can appear overwhelming at first. So here's a few tips on setting up the Super NT for optimal playback. Let's start with the video options. The Super NT supports 480, 720, and 1080p at both 50 and 60 Hz. I asked Kevin about 4K support and was told that no chips support this just yet. It's just too many pixels per second. With the available options, I find that 1080p provides the sharpest image when going for that raw pixel look, but 720p is beneficial if you want to use scanline, since it produces a look closer to that of a CRT. Speaking of scanlines, you can disable them and select between two options, normal and hybrid. Normal paints solid lines through the image with an adjustable depth slider which determines thickness. Hybrid scanlines, however, are the result of a collaboration with Marshall, the creator of Ultra HDMI for 64, and this allows for varying degrees of thickness based on the brightness of the surrounding colors. Another important option in this menu is Gamma Boost. This helps make up for the brightness lost when using scanlines, but it's useful even when not using them. You see, some deeper shades are difficult to see even without scanlines, but Gamma Boost clears that right up, and I recommend leaving it enabled for all modes. Then there's image size. By default, you can select between these options. The labels for 1:1 and 8:7 are kind of misleading though, with 1:1 offering a square image rather than integer scale square pixels, and 8:7 not quite delivering perfectly square pixels. But enabling the advanced mode allows us to manually adjust scaling values. This is made possible by the addition of a frame buffer. The Super NT essentially features its own very customizable scaler chip designed to match or exceed what can be achieved with an expensive XRGB FrameMeister. This includes the option to enable horizontal and vertical interpolation to clean up sparkling edges when using a non-integer scale. I've been using these settings thanks to Mark's suggestion, and they provide a nice 4:3 image that fills the screen.
Clearly Sonic.
If you prefer to disable interpolation and go for an integer scale, you'll want to multiply your values by height and width, which is 240 and 256 respectively. There's also several scaling options and the ability to crop the image, something useful for NES games which often showed garbage in the overscan region, but not so much with the Super NES. Under the extra features, it's possible to force more sprite tiles per line to avoid flicker, which is kind of rare on the SNES, but still a nice feature to have. This is where you'll find the interlace disable function which we covered earlier as well. The pseudo high-res blending mode, though, is useful in games like Kirby 3, where the higher resolution mode is used for certain layers to simulate transparency. On a CRT, the effect looks like this, and it's pretty neat in action, I think. When played on a Super NT, however, you can see that it's just alternating between solid and blank pixels using the double width mode. Enable high-res blending then, and suddenly it looks like a real transparent layer. Beautiful. Another important feature made possible by the frame buffer are the buffer modes. By default, the system runs using the zero delay mode. Normally, the Super NES runs at roughly 60.09 Hz. But zero delay reduces the system speed to a solid 60 Hz instead. The reason? To match up with the modern flat panel refresh rates available. Using this option, games run without any additional input latency and never exhibit skipped or torn frames. Game speed is ever so slightly slower, but it's difficult to tell when actually playing the games, and this is my preferred option. If you want to match the original speed of the system, however, fully buffered and single buffer are available. fully buffered operates with additional latency ranging from 0 to 16 milliseconds that then wraps around, according to Kevtris. The idea here is to drop a frame every 10 seconds or so, but in its current iteration, several frames of tearing appear along the topmost line of that interval instead, which is kind of a preferable way to handle it, as it's much less distracting than a skipped frame. Single buffer reduces lag further at the expense of more noticeable screen tearing that appears once again every 10 seconds or so, as you can see here. It's an interesting option, but ultimately the least usable, as screen tearing is highly distracting. However, one quick thing to note, when interlacing is enabled in the extras menu, you'll want to use the single buffer option. This allows for a full 60 frames per second to be displayed despite encoding artifacts. If you use fully buffered or zero lag instead, however, the screen appears to update at half rate, or 30 frames per second. Perhaps half of the 60 fields are simply being discarded in these modes. You might be wondering how HeGum handles this then. Well, like the Super NT, HeGum strives to match the original speed of the Super NES. By default, this means screen tearing, unless you have a variable refresh rate display animation. Screen tearing is a byproduct of the game running slightly faster than the refresh rate of your monitor. Now, if you prefer smooth scrolling, there is an option for this. I found the D3D exclusive full screen mode provides a completely smooth experience with zero skips, as long as you enable vertical sync. Just like the zero delay mode on the Super NT. Unfortunately, this seems to influence sound playback, causing intermittent skips. It's a very subtle thing, but it's there if you listen.
Well, it's not subtle.
Of course, keep in mind that this is just my experience. I've tried tweaking the different settings available, and when using exclusive full screen mode, this is what I get every time. And that's the only way I was able to get completely smooth scrolling. I should mention that Pecan does have steep requirements, and I'm running this on an Intel i9-7900X CPU. On a 60Hz display then, I feel that the Super NT solution for solving this issue just works a little better overall. Okay,
that puts
let's look at the sound
into
menu.
kind
This
of
is a
like
very simple menu with just a few options, and the only option you'll really need to adjust, I believe,
some kind
is the
of
cartridge audio enable feature. So what does it do?
Good specialized
Well, if you're using a Super Game Boy or the MSU1 equipped as a
Or
it uses analog audio through the cartridge port to the Super NT. That's right. The Super Game Boy does indeed work with the Super NT, and it's an interesting case. After all, real Game Boy hardware is built directly into the cart, and it interfaces with the Super NT just like a Super NES. It even works with the Super Game Boy specific borders. At 60 Hz though, the system does drop more frames since the Game Boy uses a different refresh rate than a Super NES. Of course, even the SNES drops frames due to this refresh rate mismatch. However, since Game Boy games only fill a portion of the screen, you can use the fully buffered mode to reduce the possible skips without issue, since tear lines only appear along the top portion of the image and are not visible within the smaller Game Boy image. The rest of the options available on the system involve tweaking the menu, colors, and general operation to your liking, and it's all pretty easy to understand. Good stuff all around. Oh, and my favorite combination of colors and settings? I like to use the purple highlights with the throb feature and the default font with the uppercase option disabled. Overall, the user experience is an integral part of the hardware and a huge part of what makes it a good experience for the user. The overall impression of the Super NT then is overwhelmingly positive. The years of experience and work by the talented individuals that contributed to this product shine through. This is the best possible console you can buy for playing Super NES games on a modern flat panel TV. It's accurate, it's well built, it's beautiful, and it's easy to use. After spending weeks with the device and testing loads of games, I only ever managed to locate those few minor errors mentioned earlier in this video. The level of accuracy on here is certainly impressive. The only remaining question for me then is where they go from here. Kevtris did release unofficial ports for the NT Mini after all, enabling other 8-bit systems, but it has not been confirmed that the same thing will happen here. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. One last cool feature that I simply have to mention is the inclusion of 2 extra games, Super Turrican the Director's Cut and Turrican 2. The Director's Cut is the complete version of Super Turrican, which was previously unreleased. The story is that the game was created with a 6 megabit ROM in mind, but budget cuts forced the team to cut this down to fit in 4 megabits instead, thus limiting the content. The version included here restored that missing content. Super Turrican 2 then is also included and is one of the more technically impressive games I've played in the Super NES. There's a lot of cool effects and scaling put to use throughout the game, and it just looks awesome in motion. Perhaps someday in the future I can dedicate a full episode of DF Retro to the legendary Turrican series. And with that, we've come to the end of our video. Hopefully you've enjoyed this look at the Super NT, and if you did enjoy it, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on
enjoy
Twitter.
nothing.
Until next time, stay retro.
You're giving me nothing but pain
And suffering.
and suffering.
How dare you? Da. How dare you? Da.
The Samsung Galaxy Buds and the just released second generation AirPods are 2 of the best wireless options out right now. They both lack wireless charging, they both feature a few tricks up their sleeve, but sometimes you will stack up side by side. Shout out to Luke for the intro track. If you guys want to check that out, I will drop the link down below. Today, though, we got Galaxy Buds and we got new AirPods. One, for the most part, I feel like if you're on an iPhone, you should grab AirPods. If you're on a Galaxy device, you should grab Galaxy Buds. All of you out there might be curious what each of these offer. Hands down, the biggest difference between these two is going to be the cost. The Galaxy Buds is priced pretty aggressively, coming in at just about $130, whereas the AirPods, in classic Apple fashion, cost a crap load more at just about $200 when you factor in that fancy
The
shiny
original
wireless
AirPods
charging
were
case.
not
Let's be honest,
badly
that is
priced.
the only way you're gonna flex over Gen 1 owners.
Too bad they didn't decide to keep them.
For the most part, they're hadn't been
The original AirPods.
Android, tell these Galaxy.
Well, they kicked that, but like just
really freaking good.
the wireless charging had so much to it. Wow.
And you are good to go. It's even faster
Nice.
with the
Well,
second
remember, you
generation.
can
For the most part, with the Galaxy
Yeah.
Buds, they make that experience
Just
a
in case.
little bit
You know, I'm
easier.
curious if we buy just a case, if the AirPods themselves still work and it's just the case that's ruined.
You never have to worry about it. In terms of advantages with the Galaxy Buds, if you're on the Galaxy S10, you can wirelessly charge those with your phone. If you're on the AirPods, you can't do that with your iPhone. Also, in classic Android fashion, you have way more customization and flexibility with a dedicated app. For starters, you can control the amount of the ambient noise from the outside world around you. You can turn it on, you can turn it off, or you can change the intensity of the mix.
Intensity of the mix.
What's also cool with the Galaxy Buds is the ability to change the EQ within the app, something you cannot do with AirPods. You do, of course, have third-party options or the internal EQ with Spotify, and I will say I'm not a huge fan of anything but that stock setting with the Galaxy Buds, but again, it's nice to have that flexibility. One of the weirdest quirks of the Galaxy Buds is conversely one of the best features of AirPods, where you simply take out an earbud pod you saw in our video, and then pop it back into have it resume. For whatever reason though, with the Galaxy Buds, you have to take out both. It's a little bit weird. So here's what it's like using Galaxy Buds. And here's what it's like using AirPods. quality, I think the Galaxy Buds do two things without question better than AirPods: low end and noise isolation. So if you're into that bass, that slap, you will enjoy the Galaxy Buds. And if you work out or maybe you travel a lot on the plane, the Galaxy Buds are going to be the better option. In terms of overall sound quality though, I'll say the AirPods pack more clarity, there's more space, there's more separation. They definitely lack the low end that the Galaxy Buds have, and in terms of sound isolation at the gym or on an airplane, they're trash. But overall, I do like the balanced sound of AirPods. So yeah, both of these do charge wirelessly, but what's nice with the Galaxy Buds case is you have that flexibility of charging also with USB-C. If you own an iPhone, there is a good chance, of course, that you have a lightning cable, but I, for one, am ready for everything to be USB-C.
Oh.
Absolutely, though, one of the biggest advantages with the second generation AirPods over Galaxy Buds that potentially may justify that price difference is the inclusion of Hey, which gives you control with your voice.
Hey.
Yes, before someone yells at me, you can access Bixby or Google Assistant by tapping on the Galaxy Buds, but using your voice is next level. Yes, Siri is not the greatest virtual assistant, but there's something cool about using your voice to send text, to look up the weather, to look up directions, or having control over minute details like changing the volume down to 10% to 50%. That stuff is really useful. One other advantage with the AirPods actually comes down to the Apple ecosystem if you own a MacBook or an iPad, is the ability to change instantly between devices. That's something you just can't do with the Galaxy Buds, and it may not be a big deal to you, but